When Tate is mentioned, people tend to have the image of graceful women and young girls dressed in áo dài walking around come to mind, since this costume has become a symbol of Tate. However, it is being neglected as the modern lifestyle is bringing us away from our tradition. The young generation has replaced áo dài with other trendy clothes when going out to celebrate Tate. Since many teenagers do not acknowledge properly of this traditional costume, today I'd like to tell you the story of how this beautiful and meaningful dress has become the traditional clothes of Vietnam. Yes, áo dài and Vietnamese women are part and parcel, and you can't convince me other way. It is not only discreet but also flatters the willowy beauty of them. Nowadays, you can still see áo dài everywhere. High school female students sometimes wear it as uniform. Women often wear áo dài on special occasions like wedding, ceremony, or Tate holiday. Actually, this is not the only Vietnamese traditional costume. We also have áo Nhật Bình, áo bà ba, so on and so on. However, áo dài is the most used from the old days to this day and age. There is the content of performing áo dài in every national beauty competition and traditional costume content in international contests. People have gotten used to the colorful áo dài with floral pattern that is used widely these days. But áo dài was so much different at its original appearance. No one knows exactly when áo dài first appeared. Evidence shows it wasn't until 1744 that áo dài began to make a lasting impression on society. The primitive version was the giáo lãnh. The long flaps were not tied together but hung freely or left intersected. The clothes were worn with a type of camisole, a long black dress, and a collared fabric belt used to tie up around the waist. From the 18th century to early 20th century, there was innovation in áo dài, but it was divided into two different types using for different social classes. The most widely worn by upper-class women during the 18th was áo ngũ thân, a five-panel gown consisting of four outer panels, two in the front sewn into one piece and two in the back, adding colored detail along with a hidden baby flap, an alternative to the bra, which was not yet invented at the time. It is also the first time the dress has two splits on each hip, which later becomes the standout feature of áo dài that remains today. On the other hand, the working class wore a new, more tidy, functional design called áo tứ thân, or four-panel gown. In short, áo tứ thân is another version of áo ngũ thân with two back panels sewn into one piece. The front panels were not connected but could be tied together. As was typical for the lower class clothing at the time, the four-panel gown is often in dark colors. Overall, the two dresses initially had much looser silhouettes and were also much shorter than the áo dài we see now. In the next period, 1930s to 1950s, French colonization had brought a Western influence into Vietnam. An artist, Cát Tường, varied áo dài into many different silhouettes, taking inspiration from Western fashion. He tightened up the áo dài to fit the form of the Vietnamese women's body. He raised the shoulders, extended the dress to reach floor length, changed to a brighter color scheme, and added Western details like puffy sleeves, heart-shaped collar, and a bow. Soon after that, áo dài Le Mur was adjusted by painter Lê Phụ to be more traditional. He cut off the puffy sleeves and replaced it with the details from áo tứ thân and áo ngũ thân. In 1958, Trần Lệ Xuân, the wife of the president's chef advisor, made a controversial fashion statement by wearing a V-neck collar dress with short sleeves, gloves, and elegant patterns on the fabric, much different from the traditional discreet design with high collars. Áo dài with boat neck was more charming and suited to the hot weather of Saigon. This change caused a big debate, and it was criticized as unsuitable for the costumes and sensibilities of Vietnam. However, it was popular and is a widely used design. Several years later, there was a tailor in Dachau called Dũng who sought to create a new structure for the áo dài. The front corner of the áo dài is connected by buttons lying from the collar to the armpit and continuing down to the side of the hip. With this innovation, the dress showed fewer wrinkles, lying flat on the female body while still feeling comfortable in movements. The 1970s and early 80s witnessed the country reform period, đổi mới, along with the wave of hippie culture. This trend was popular until the mid-90s. In the 21st century, although being worn less on a daily basis, áo dài still remains as a national symbol of grace, beauty, cultural pride, and Vietnamese creativity. From high fashion to traditionalist and everything in between, there's no doubt why this dress is such a crucial element of Vietnamese culture.